And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series presented by Full Send Racing Network. Tonight, for the fifth round of the season, we come to you from the Autodromo Nazionale Monza, the home of, the Italian Grand Prix in Formula One for, countless years. They're coming up, I think, towards about 60 at this point. It's been one of the fixtures on the Formula One calendar for quite a long time, and it's been a fixture of this series for now 2 years. We ran it towards the kind of the middle portion of the first season of the Snowstorm Series, and since then it has become a kind of a series favorite, thanks to not only this week's really fun practice races where the drivers really seem to take this to this track quite well, but also in the previous season, one of the best races of Snowstorm Season 1 came here at Monza, and what was one of the most exciting finishes we've had in quite a long time. So we will talk more about this track in a minute, and outline the circuit in detail a little bit more. But first of all, hi everybody. I'm your director, your play-by-play commentator, I should say. I'm your usual fixture of the broadcast, series founder, everything in between, Mr. Marshall Crocker Jr. And next to me, I was going to put up the leaderboard, but it has just gone away because it is time for qualifying, which is just starting in the background. So the drivers will leave their pit boxes, do a full warm-up lap, and then get ready to go here and get set for tonight's racing action. So there is me. We are ready to go in just a moment. But before we get too far, we do need to throw it to our other commentator for tonight's festivities here. And he's joined us once in the season so far, and he's joined us many times in the past, both as a driver in the series, not him. Put up the wrong guy on the board. But also Mr. Jack Hillier. There we go. We got the proper guy up there on the timing tower. The qualifying times down below are just coming in as we speak. But welcome, Jack, back in the broadcast booth for the second time this season. And tonight, last time you were joining us, we were at Mid-Ohio there a couple weeks back for round 3. But tonight we are at Monza, and Monza, a very different beast, very different track from what we've seen in the past. Very high paced and lots of high intensity racing action. Certainly a track that's very easy to pass. So, what are you expecting tonight at Monza, based on what you know of the track and what you know of Formula One?
Yeah. Thank you, Marshall, and it's nice to be back here with you. But yeah, Monza, great track, fast track. There's going to be, from the practice races, it's going to be good closely. I will hopefully come down to that.
Yeah, we're sincerely hoping so. It's been a great season so far. So we see a couple drivers, a couple different names showing up as tonight's co-commentator, none of which are the case. But yeah, it's been a really great season so far, I think, on the road course front. Last time we were out here at a road course, it was for Mid-Ohio for the third round of the season. And well, that was a fun little race from start to finish, really. That was certainly a competitive one towards the end. We saw that great battle between Nick Nickerson and Andrew Bedrosian, one that we might see rekindled tonight. I would not be surprised whatsoever if that is the case. Drivers now just exiting onto the track. And well, tonight, the key here at Monza for both the race and qualifying is going to be the slipstream. It's going to be the tow, and it's something that I think guys are going to treat as the utmost commodity here as we see Andrew Bedrosian kind of backing off a little bit. You saw Dan Skilton and Rich Molino were ahead of them on pit exit when he left onto the racing surface, but he's now backed off a little bit, going to put a couple of cars in front of him. And the slipstream is huge here because you have these big long straightaways here at Monza, and if you can get in behind another car, get in their slipstream, get in their tow, gives you an aero advantage that gives you higher, top speed on the straightaways, and thus you can go even faster on your qualifying run. So that's going to be crucial tonight. I think the fastest a driver could go with DRS activated, that's the drag reduction system, a button they push on the car to raise the wing a couple times per lap. You have a certain number of uses in the race, but they are unlimited in qualifying. So full DRS usage and the slipstream, you can probably get, in the 135, certainly. You can earn some pretty impressive lap times, but just on your own, you can run about a 137.2. So it's almost a full second and 3/4 faster to utilize the power of the slipstream of the tow, the slipstream, whatever you want to call it. So we are sitting here waiting for our first times to show up on the leaderboard now, about 3 minutes into qualifying. Each lap here at Monza, the Formula Renault 3.5 car, we run about somewhere in the ballpark of a minute and a half. So we are going to see our first lap showing up momentarily. We see David Lakey, who somebody's gone around to the background. That was Dan Skilton. That purple car has just taken a spun off the exit of Ascari, but here comes David Lakey off the final corner, going to put down our first lap of the session. Driver of the 84, where is he going to start us off? A 138.546, so a couple seconds down on what I would assume is going to be tonight's pole time. Michael Nickel, though, running a considerably faster time, well, by about half a second. He goes to a we don't even know, because Nick Nickerson has now topped him right at the beginning of the session. He goes to a 136.8. Tim Salvatore comes in just behind as he finishes up his lap. Tim was quick this week in practice, and Tim Salvatore is going to run just a couple of hundredths down. So it's Nickerson, Salvatore, Digner, Paxa, Nickel, Lakey, Zufelt, and Bedrosian. Andrew, as we saw, backed off there in his first lap attempt, so that would probably not be too representative of his overall pace here as he goes 3.5 seconds down on Nick for the start of the session. But we see Max Preston running a pretty good lap, and Max was fairly quick this week in the practice races. He actually left the practice race on Thursday, left early whilst leading, so we know he's definitely got a ton of pace in that car. And well, Max is a guy that we've seen quite a bit this season to well, when he's able to make it out to races, has quite a bit of pace. We saw it a couple weeks back at Mid-Ohio. He was fairly quick, but tonight at Monza, his experience in the series, in the Snowstorm Series, racing with us in the past, may pay off at a track that he's run at before. Let's see where he puts himself in the first lap in qualifying. Don't think he'll go up to the 136s, but he comes close. Third place here, running a 137. So, but a 137 flat there, not a bad place to get started. Only 3/10 down on the current provisional pole sitter, Mr. Nick Nickerson. But yeah, I mean, it's been a really fun season so far. Jack, you've obviously run with us at the Ovals and the first road course of the season, but for both Mid-Ohio and obviously this race, you're going to step in on commentary. So overall, what do you think has been the story of the season so far from a driver's championship perspective? Andrew kind of got off to a bit of a slow start at the beginning, has since picked it up, has taken over the points lead. Nick's been quick. Max is kind of fighting his way back. Who do you think are the guys to watch for the championship this season?
Yeah, like most of the names you just said, Max, Andrew, Nick, but when I don't anything, but Trevor Anderson, who has had a good season so far, a win and being top 5 in everything in the car. So I think that these days like how he is could be a close battle between him, Andrew, Nick, and Max, for the championship that could come down to the final race.
It very well could, and seeing this season being a little bit shorter than previous years, only 12 races in this calendar for Snowstorm Season 2 than the previous year. Yeah, definitely not out of the realm of possibility that close battle between Nick and Nick and Trevor and Andrew up top for the top 3, and Tim to some extent. Tim Salvatore and Max Preston are making their way into that top 5. Yeah, not unexpected at all that we could potentially have a championship battle that comes down to the wire like that. Max Preston just finished up his lap time, and it'll bump him up a spot. Got to put him up to second, 42 thousandths down on still current leader Mr. Nick Nickerson. But in behind him is Tim Salvatore, and these two guys have been locked at the hip all week in practice. It's been kind of the the Max and Tim show in regards to fastest lap times. They've been able to really push the limits on where these cars are able to go with the toe. They have such great execution on those kind of low-speed chicane corners that this track is full of. So we'll see what they can do in regards to pace for the rest of the session. But Nick Nickerson went into the pits at some point in this session and is just coming back out now for his out lap. Here comes Mitch Morrow, going to run his first time of the session. He's going to go to 5th, going to put up about a 137 point, somewhere in the ballpark of 4. So not a bad time to get himself started, just off the pace from Andrew Bedrosian, who currently sits in 4th. Andrew is, he previously had every pole position of the season up to round 4, at which point last week Tim Salvatore took over pole position duties, and right now he is only 2/10 of a second off on Nick's provisional first time, but still it is the 2 car that leads at this point in qualifying. Trying to weave around, get the tires up to temperature, and as he comes up to Ascari here in a moment, we might do a onboard lap with Nick as we see drivers continuing to try to top their personal best times, but nobody really seeming to find the pace necessary. I mean, Tim Salvatore's not in a bad little lap, so maybe we're going to go on board here with Tim Salvatore for just a couple corners, and we'll see what sort of pace that number 91 car has in it. He's actually on a great pace right now. He ran a personal best for himself in the first and third sector, best of anybody in the 4th. Here he comes across the line. That might go to pole. And it does, 136.672 for Tim Salvatore. He was given a toe to Max Preston, who just did not seem to have quite as good of a lap. I would imagine that Tim passed him during that lap there. So Tim Salvatore, for the 2nd week in a row, goes to provisional pole. And the question is for Andrew Bedrosian, who currently surprisingly sitting in 4th for a road course. Both times this season that we've been at a road course, Andrew Bedrosian has taken the pole. So to see him right now running all the way down in 4th, kind of a surprise to be sure, but you never know. This could be the lap that he's trying to put together. Actually, no personal best in any of the first 4 sectors. How crazy would it be, Jack, to see how great Andrew's been in the last couple seasons he's been with our series to start on the outside of row number 2 at a road course? Not sure if we've just lost connection to Jack Hillier, but yeah, I think that would be a absolutely crazy occurrence to see. So we will see. This lap didn't particularly hook up for him either, but we'll see if on his own he can at least put himself into the 136s, maybe compete for the top 3, but no doubt going to be one of the quickest guys on the track tonight, all night. going to be a guy we got to watch out for. But Fred Zufelt just finishing up his fourth sector as we speak. Ran a personal best in sectors 1 and 4, so that yellow Renault going to come out of the final turn. The number 7 of Fred Zufelt, currently 13th on the board. Can he improve? Across the line he comes. And there he goes. What time does he run? Runs a sometime in the 130, just into the 138. So going to go 10th, goes top 10 there on the leaderboard, just short of Michael Nickel. But Justin Lewick in the 55 car jumps up, and he is going to knock a couple drivers down position. He's going to go up to 8th there. So Justin Lewick tonight off to a pretty good start. But here comes Nick Nickerson across the line. Max Preston doesn't improve, but can Nick, best of anybody in sectors 2 and 4, does not go to the top spot. Those sectors that he was quick in were great, but apparently the 2 that he wasn't were the ones that killed his lap. So for the time being, Tim Salvatore going to stay on top of the leaderboard. One more attempt for Nick Nickerson. Further back on track, we got Mitch Morrow in the 55 car coming through the last couple of corners. Sorry, 66 car, I should say. Off of the final corner through the turn known as Parabolica, that wide sweeping right-hander. As he coming down pit road, it's a very tight arc. Really interesting looking angle to take off that final corner. Across the line he comes. Personal best in sectors 1, 3, and 4. No, does not improve from that initial 5th place lap time. Andrew Bedrosian, there's the lap we were expecting, but not enough for pole. Going to go to 2nd on the leaderboard there, just about a 10th and a quarter down on Tim Salvatore. So good lap time, fairly quick, but not enough to put himself on the top spot. So no bonus positions for pole for Andrew tonight. He'll have to settle for the front row. A couple more drivers just finishing up now. Christopher Mitchell, I think, was on the end of a hot lap. He is, but he is now finished. Fred Zufelt, Max Preston's got one more run left in him. Let's go on board here with the driver of the number 4. Sorry, the driver of the number 6. All my numbers are mixed up in my telemetry in the background. So Max has one more attempt. It was slower in the first 2 sectors, fastest in sector 3. He'd have to run like a superhuman final sector without the draft, which, as you can see up front, nobody giving him the tow. So here we go, off the final turn. Here comes Max, way wide through Parabolica, trying to maintain much more momentum, and he does. I don't think it's going to be enough. It's going to be quick, but no, only going to run in the 136 range, but not enough to go to the top spot. And there we go. Nick Nickerson runs his final lap time. Immediately dives off the track. That was pretty quick, but yeah, Nick sneaking in there at the very end to run a really great lap time. Again, just over a 10th back of Tim Salvatore, so he puts himself on the front row, bumps Andrew down to 3rd. That'll be Max Preston on the outside of row number 2, and Rich Foligno goes off there in Ascari in that first section of the corner. Michael Nickel's able to slip by. I'm not sure if Michael is still on a legal lap time. No, he wouldn't be. He would have finished there in that last lap. So there we go. We are done in qualifying. We'll wait just a moment for your final results here from qualifying to show up, and that way we can give you the full rundown tonight for who is going to be starting where. But there we go. Here coming in tonight is your points for the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series after the 4th round at Gateway last week. There you go. Andrew Bedrosian top of the leaderboard there in that number 5 car, a 175 point total, just 14 ahead of Trevor Anderson in 2nd, your race winner a couple weeks back at Phoenix in round number 2. So 2 wins this season for Andrew. He has 175 points. Trevor Anderson in 2nd with 161. Nick Nickerson with 157 in the number 2. Americans in the top 3. Then followed by Tim Salvatore, Christopher Mitchell, and Max Preston, all representatives of Canadian MiniIndy. So 114 points, 102 points, and 101 for them, respectively. Both Salvatore and Preston have missed an entire race this season. So impressive they are that competitive in the point standings overall. Then it's David Lakey in 7th, Marshall Crocker Sr. in 8th, Michael Nickel in 9th, and David Paxa in 10th. And there you go. If you scroll down a little bit, you can see the rest of the totals for everybody so far this season. So there you go, your full point standings here for the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series since our 4th round at Gateway. But now it is time for your final results from qualifying as the graphics freeze, and we'll do a quick reset here just to make sure we're all good to go. But we have just a moment before we go to our standing start. Remember, we don't do rolling starts in this series at the road courses, so we got to hurry and make sure we make it up to the grid. But on the pole for the 2nd time this season, 2nd time in 2 weeks, but a different discipline to do so at. Mr. Tim Salvatore, tonight's pole sitter, as you will see reflected on there we go, our qualifying results graphic here at Monza. On the pole tonight, Tim Salvatore, who is not currently joining the session, but should jump onto that top spot momentarily. On the outside of row number 1, it's Nick Nickerson battling for that top 3 in the championship, only about 20 points back of Andrew for the points lead. He's battled them both the last 2 weeks, narrowly fended off at both last week at Gateway and the week before at Mid-Ohio. Could this be tonight? Could tonight be the night that Nick Nickerson overcomes Mr. Bedrosian? There is Andrew starting on the outside, the inside, I should say, the outside in reference to the first turn, sitting in the third spot. Max Preston on his outside on row 2. Mitch Morrow, a season-best qualifying performance, up in 5th. Then it's Rich Foligno in row number 3. Tanner Dignard alongside Christopher Mitchell, Justin Lewick, David Paxa, Tim Salvatore's on the grid. So we got to get ready to go, but we will run you through the rest of your grid momentarily. There is your timing tower. We are ready to go momentarily. Waiting for the green here at Monza. Remember, it is Salvatore, Nickerson, Bedrosian, Preston, Morrow. Then further back, we got Michael Nickel, Trevor Anderson starting all the way down in 12th. Then it's Fred Zufelt, David Lakey, Dan Skilton, Jonathan Petrone, Marshall Crocker, and Jack Hillier up here in the booth. Will show up on the timing tower, but is not in the event. Lights starting to go out. 3, 4, 5. Green flag here at Monza for the 5th round of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series season for Season 2. What a start by Andrew Bedrosian. Absolutely gaps the field down to turn number 1. Here comes the field up to the first turn. It's Bedrosian on the inside. And further back, contact. Justin Lulick gets into Rich Foligno, who's already gone off. Foligno in the number 99 is off. He made contact with the 55. Justin Lulick squeezing Michael Nickel out. But with that, we do successfully make it through turns 1 and 2. Further back, Nick Nickerson staying in second, but Tim Salvatore, your pole sitter, already down to third, coming up to turn number 3 on the first lap. He is side by side with Max Preston. He stays to the inside. Side by side, they go into turn number 3, but he gets squeezed out. Sorry, turn number 4, I should say. Max does get the spot, so Max Preston up another spot. Same with Tim Salvatore. Further back, David Pax is having a little bit of trouble. He has gone off on the entry to turn number 4. So a number of drivers having troubles here early at Monza, but back on track comes David Pax. I'm seeing issues for David Lakey as well, but he is back up to speed. So Michael Nickel goes in front of Tanner Dignard, who's gone off on the very first lap, coming through turn number 7, the second of the 2 Ravazza corners. So what a race it has been so far. Not Ravazza, whatever the equivalent is here at Monza. But out front, coming through Ascari now as we speak, Andrew Bedrosian leads the field on the very first lap. We're starting to segment out a little bit, but here we go. The slipstream you're going to see in full effect here on the very first lap. Andrew Bedrosian trying to hold off the guy he started in front of in qualifying, Nick Nickerson, in that new black and green number 2 car for GFR Racing, one of his longtime affiliations. Through Parabolica we come, both guys with a head of steam, but Nick's going to be in the slipstream, coming down to turn number 1. Can he get him on the rundown? Goes to the outside, Andrew's going to block the inside. We're going to be side by side coming up to the braking zone. Who is going to be more bold on the brakes? Here we go, waiting momentarily. Down into the braking zone, it's going to be even. Side by side to turns number 1 and 2. Andrew squeezes him out there, doesn't give him the line and holds him off. So there we go, first defensive maneuver of the race for Andrew Bedrosian. And though he may not have started on pole, he's already up to where we're used to seeing him, Jack, up in the first spot, only a couple laps in.
Yeah, I just had to look at the incident between Justin and Rich going into turn 1. Justin just braked a little too late and just hit the rear tire and hit. Doesn't feel either of them have any damage.
Well, I believe both drivers did go back to pit road momentarily. Justin Lewick has just exited, so the 55 will exit the pits in 15th. Rich Foligno still in there as we speak. Rich Foligno, the winner of our Thursday practice race this week, so we know if he can get some good luck, if he can get some good circumstances, he can be competitive tonight, but unfortunately that is not the way he wanted to start tonight. Is going to need to rely on a caution later in the race. But out front, Andrew Bedrosian continues to chug away here, coming through Ascari, nailing the apexes, nailing the curves. All of the top 4 have so far. So it's Bedrosian, Preston, Nickerson, and Salvatore. And you see Bedrosian already swerving around, trying to break the toe to Preston. And Max Preston, who we saw in the background there in turn number 4, did get by Nick Nickerson. So Max in the 6. I think he's going to be the guy to watch out for tonight. I know he has yet to score a win. None of our Canadian representatives in this series have scored a win to this point, but Max could very well be the first, swerving around, trying to get a little bit of momentum on Andrew. And we're going to go on board here for a second with Max Preston, just to see the effect of the slipstream as we head down to turn number 1. CC gets close. We're going to watch him again on this set of turns, coming out of turn number 2 on the run up to turn number 3. So he's going to get the slipstream. Andrew's going to decide to go to the right side of the track, hug that inside line. Can Max get the run necessary? Andrew's going to defend the inside, so Max is going to try to go the long way around. This is risky. This may not be where you want to be. Andrew squeezed him right off, and he goes off. He squeezed him off the racing surface. Andrew Bedrosian gave him no room to work with. They cannot get by side by side. Max squeezed off there into the rumble curves. Who was that in the background? I think that was Mitch Morrow who's just gone off. You saw in the background the 66 car just absolutely launched off the exit curve in turn number 4. So Mitch Morrow stays on track. Actually, impressive car control ability to get back on that quickly. And now he's got it in front from Fred Zufelt, the driver of the number 7, looking underneath into turn number 7. He gets him that time, just very wide for Mitch Morrow. Might let a couple drivers by, might have a penalty for cutting the track. Whatever it is, he is down to 13th, going to give David Paxa control of 12th and Fred Zufelt control of 11th. They're coming down side by side into the entry to Ascari. David Paxa going to get the better of that battle, take him on the inside. And there we go, with all the famous trees, if you remember from previous seasons of the Snowstorm Series and the Cars to Computer Series. Always the most difficult thing for a broadcaster, certainly the most annoying to have trees in your way when you're trying to call a battle, and Monza is full of them. So we'll keep an eye out on those tonight. But Rich Foligno has returned to the race in 16th position, does not go a lap down, but is not too far up ahead of your race leaders. And since that issue from Preston, remember just a moment ago where he got squeezed off a little bit by Andrew Bedrosian, well, he went back a couple spots, but is now on the attack once again. See if he can get Michael Nickel into the braking zone for turn number 1. He cannot, so the 23 going to hold on to the top 5 spot for the time being. Max Preston just has to, settle in once again, kind of figure out his line, kind of get in a rhythm. And I don't see any damage on that number 6 car at the moment. So I think Max has the car. He has the ability to make it back up, only 4.5 seconds back. But the question is just, what can he do mentally to try to work his way back into a competitive spot? And certainly got some tough race cars to get by, including this man here in second, Mr. Nick Nickerson, who now once again tries to track down Andrew Bedrosian. And we saw Jack earlier this season when we went to Imola for the very first race of the year. The last time Nick was chasing down Andrew at a road course, Andrew was forced into a mistake. So you never know. Nick is a very threatening driver. We know the pace he has. We know how quick he is in these races. Could we potentially see a little bit of a similar mistake from Andrew tonight?
That's always possible. Especially on road courses like this, with teams on 2 and it is 5, pin 6 or 4 and 5, which just go wake a little bit and you're up, wake a little bit early and you're lost your place.
Yeah, it's so crucial in this series, as we've talked about in the past. It's one thing to be quick, as we've seen a lot of drivers be in qualifying, but to translate that to the race is a whole other challenge. And not only to be quick, but to be quick consistently, that is so much of the game plan here. So on board now with Tim Salvatore, who currently sits in third, a guy who's been quick here all week at Monza, been putting down plenty of laps, has had the lap times to beat, really the most envious pace overall. So we will see if that pace continues over to tonight's race. Christopher Mitchell momentarily went off in the background, so might have a fun battle here for fourth, as he is just narrowly ahead of Michael Nickel and Max Preston. Now side by side with Nickel he goes through turn number 4. Can he get the move done? Michael Nickel, I think, comfortably ahead down to the braking zone. Maybe not. Christopher Mitchell hard on the brakes on the outside. No, does not make the corner. I was gonna say was coming in with a head of steam, but no, in the end gets squeezed off a little bit too far. So Christopher Mitchell now back to 6th in his attempt to defend from Michael Nickel. And it's proven tough tonight for guys trying to defend into turn number 4. Just, it's a very slim piece of racetrack, and that's a tough turn to make single file with how heavy the curbs are. So we saw a couple times now guys have done their very best to squeeze a guy out there, and sometimes it'll work and sometimes it won't. But in the case there for Christopher Mitchell, it did not. So there you go. The race continues on, and now we got a battle for 7th here. Trevor Anderson and Tanner Digner. Trevor second in the points. Tanner Digner had a really good race in the last couple events of this season. I've been impressed with the pace for the 51 so far, but there as we head into Ascari, Trevor Anderson just a little later on the brakes, capitalized on the slipstream, and would not be surprised if the 25 car used a little bit of DRS there either. Some really great camera angles here we're seeing at Monza as well. Here you see the run up into Parabolica as the cars take the hard right and dip down in there. You get to see the pace of these Formula Renault cars in action. You see the run off of the corner there. Christopher Mitchell on the inside. Actually, that's a great view to showcase the troubles Mitchell's having as he comes down pit road. So the 94 car there, after those issues running a little bit wide in turn number 4, maybe took a little bit of damage bouncing over those curbs, and is now going to pit to try to repair it. There we go into pit road. That's a better camera to use. And further up front, this battle continues. The top 3 separated by only a full second, less than a second back to Tim Salvatore from that front spot. So through turn number 4 and 5, both getting good run-offs there, and Andrew going just that little bit wider. You really want to use every piece of the racetrack you possibly can here at Monza, and it's one thing that Andrew's been known for doing is really running the edge, running it on the very edge of what you can as a driver, and he often manages to make it work. He takes the risk, but they pay off most of the time. And now we're going to see a battle potentially for second, as looks like Salvatore is closer to Nickerson than Nickerson is to Bedrosian. So here we go, going to go and ride in behind on the number 91 car of Tim Salvatore as he heads through Ascari. We'll see what kind of runoff he gets and can potentially try to chase Nick, but Nick was perfect there in those first couple corners. Nick is going to have a good run. We're going to keep an eye on Nickerson here in the run down towards Andrew Bedrosian. Lap number 6 next time by, lap number 7, and we'll be 20% of the way through tonight's event. Here we go, Andrew with a pretty good runoff, but Nick was not too far behind. This might be a good opportunity if Nick is really trying to get by him now, which it's a very important thing to note. He might not be trying to yet. You know, it might just not be time for him to make those big moves as of right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, where he's just saying, you know what, it's a long race. I've seen before in the past where races haven't been determined by the beginning, they've been determined by the end. And last time Nick was in second place late in the race, I think lap 31 back at Imola, it was enough to pick up the win then. So right now might just settle in behind unless he's got a really apparent passing opportunity, in which case he might try to bet on himself and just pull away. Andrew, where is he going to defend? I think Nick actually loaded up a little bit. He just got off the gas and let Andrew have the line. So it's a game of waiting right now here, which, you know, for the sake of competitive side-by-side battling is going to be a little bit less than perhaps we'd hoped. But, you know, I don't think it's a bad strategy from a racer's perspective whatsoever. You know, tonight is really going to be the night of, well, it's just, you know, waiting for something to happen. Monza's a fast-paced, high-speed racetrack, and as much as there's going to be passing, there is going to be guys trying to, you know, push the limit just a little bit too far, and well, that's when you start making the mistakes that this series has been plenty of this season, and that includes our top 3. All 3 guys have made mistakes in the past. Think about Nick having a little bit of trouble at Mid-Ohio, spinning on the exit of the keyhole turn. Andrew with his mistake at Imola. Tim Salvatore a couple times on the year, including that wreck with Andrew Bedrosian last week at Gateway. So there is plenty of potential for something to go on here. Further back, Nick Nickerson and Tim Salvatore heading into the braking zone for Parabolica, and he holds him off. And that once again looked to me like Tim Salvatore backing off. So looks like guys are just not ready for the high intensity passing that we're going to see, I'm sure, later on in the race, and are more a little bit more content for the time being to just chill out and let the race come to them. Going to go to the Full Send Racing replay presented by Canadian MiniIndy.com, who we'll talk about momentarily. We saw on my telemetry that Christopher Mitchell had a crash somewhere on track. There it is. Gets a little bit loose coming off of turn number 2 and slightly overcooks it a little bit on the cold tires, but back up to speed relatively quickly and relatively uneventful. That did give Justin Lewick the spot, who now moves back up to 13th in the 55, and he will chug along, continue his trek towards through the field. Further back, Dan Skilton there in the 13th car, that purple and black entry, gets by Tanner Dignard, who's gone around Tanner Dignard and the 51 car off of turn number 2. Gonna go see a replay on that too, because coming into the braking zone, they were side by side. I thought Dan Skilton was comfortably on the inside, got the move done as Fred Zufeldt's gonna go by him in the background too. So the 7 car up into the top 10. We're gonna keep an eye on this battle for just a moment, see if maybe Dignard can fight him back. A little bit of damage there on his rear wing of the 51 we can see, but no, the 7's gonna hold on into turn number 4. So for the time being, no luck for the 51. But let's go to the racing replay here and see what went wrong there for the 51 car. There we go, into the braking zone. On the outside is Dignard, and just, a little bit of an overcorrection with that wider line. Had to, you know, hook the nose in a little bit more to make the turn and set up for the best runoff possible in turn 2, and just slightly overcorrected, and that's all it took. In the background there you see Zufeldt getting by him, and just tough luck there for Tanner Dignard early in the event, taking a little bit of damage that it looks like he already had. He wouldn't have sustained that in the crash, so Tanner Dignard perhaps not having all the luck he would have hoped for. And now Marshall Crocker Sr. in the 15, not only trying to get him, but also trying to get Fred Zufeldt just a little ways up front. This battle for 10th could get quite intense very quickly. Gonna put up the track map there on the top right side of your screen so you can keep an eye on your favorite drivers and where they are on track relevant to one another. Remember, the numbers are representative of their position in the race rather than their actual driver number. In the case of these 2 guys, the 51 and the 15, and here goes Tanner Dignard down pit road, gonna make his 1 and possibly only pit stop of the race, depending on what the fuel strategy works out to tonight. There is gonna be minimum 1 pit stop, but not sure if you can pit now and have enough to the end. 26 laps, there's a decent chance. So may have seen the last pit stop of the day for Dignard. He's just going to have to run quite a long stint there to end off the race on new tires. Up front, though, the battle continues for the lead. Bedrosian narrowly holding off Nickerson and Salvatore, as he has been doing for quite a long time now. The 5, the 2, and the 91, all pretty evenly matched. And further back is Max Preston, who's gotten back up to pace. And, well, now we're going to put up our last lap time for each of our top drivers here. So let's show it on the left side. So look on the timing tower there. That is the last lap time for every driver on track. So 137.8 for Bedrosian. Nickerson a little bit faster, runs a personal best 137.7. Salvatore 137.7, and Preston a 137.2, which furthers my my suspicion that these guys up front may just be conserving, backing off a little bit for the time being, and letting the race come to them rather than forcing competitive battles and swooping all around each other and risking car-on-car contact. So I don't think it's such a bad idea, but certainly if you were Andrew Bedrosian, it's going to make the likelihood of you getting that bonus point for most laps led more and more apparent. But Nick may have heard my comment, because here he comes on the outside, side by side, going down to turn number 1. Nick is comfortably ahead into the braking zone, but he does have the less ideal outside line. Andrew's going to slide across and hold him off. And here comes Tim Salvatore, might have a good run on Nick off the exit of the turn. Nick got kind of held up there in the middle of the corner when Andrew went wide. So here comes Nick Nickerson and Tim Salvatore. Salvatore going to peek to the outside, the 91, that is Max Preston. There's Tim Salvatore. The 91 may have a shot into turn number 3, but backs off. And it looks like there's going to be no attempt into 4 and 5. What a fun little battle, though, we continue to see here. Going to go on board here for just a moment with Mr. Tim Salvatore. We're going to watch him for a second, but we're also going to go to our track info presented by, well, Full Center Racing Network. I don't think we actually have a sponsor for this little segment, but always good to give you a little bit of detail about the racetrack. So keep an eye up there on the top right as Tim Salvatore attempts to chase down Nick Nickerson. But here's some information tonight about the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. Opened in 1922, one of the most historic racetracks in the world. Actually this year, celebrating its 100-year anniversary. So happy birthday, Monza. Actually, great pick for that very reason. Wasn't intentional, but that is a very cool thing to do. Here we go. Watching the top right, we may need to go back live just for a moment as Nick's watching Andrew swerve around in front of him. Nick just going to stay to the outside, though. He's not too bothered by all the crazy defensive shenanigans going on from the number 5. He's just going to settle in there, stay in behind him through Parabolica. Takes a much tighter line, which is interesting to see. I mean, he's got the slipstream, maybe not a bad decision, but Andrew able to run much wider on board with the driver of the number 2. Down to turn number 1, a huge slipstream. He might be on the button, too. Down it towards turn number 1. We're going to go side by side between the two drivers. The battle for not only the race, but potentially your championship later on in the season. Side by side again. Is he going to try it? Andrew's going to slide through and block him off. Once again, just turn 1 and 2, as much as they're braking zones in real life in Formula 1, they just don't seem to be working for our drivers tonight. So Nick Nickerson once again going to come close, but it will not pay off. Back to some info about tonight's race at Monza as we see the drivers up top continue to dice and slice around, but no passing attempts into turn number 4. They're coming into the Seconda Variante, if I pronounce that correctly. I don't know if we have any Italians out there, but then there's the Lesmo, that's what I was trying to call it. Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2. Then the Curva de Saraglio, followed by, of course, Ascari, as I've been calling it, or Variante Ascari, as it's better known, and Prima Variante in the first 2 turns, and Curva Bassano. So if you're looking for some fun Italian pronunciations of turns, as well as Parabolica, the famous final turn, one of the most fun on the service, well, there you go. There are your names. Up front, we're still seeing up top this battle continue on, the swerving around from Bedrosian continuing, and Max is now within 2.5 seconds. Max Preston has just been on a charge there in that number 6 car. I think it's just paying off not being in this battle for the lead, because if he's not trying to conserve fuel and he can just focus on the battle, or just focus on lap times, that he might have a shot to get competitive with him. Nick Nickerson, I think, might be outside of Andrew Bedrosian. No, Andrew's just able to clear into Parabolica. So the two guys continuing the battle as we come up towards the 1/3 portion of this race. On lap number 12, here we come. Another attempt from Nick, then we'll finish up the graphic. It's been a couple laps of great battling. Can't really get time to talk about the track. Down to the inside goes Bedrosian. To the outside goes Nickerson. We're going to try it again. It hasn't worked twice, but maybe third time is the charm. And no, Nick is going to back off and think better of it for the time being. So finally, to finish up here, running today's race in the afternoon in the virtual sim world here in virtual Italy. We're running the typical Grand Prix configuration used by Formula 1. We're not using the giant oval that sits on the outside of the track. You can see there on the track map, but you can use it on iRacing. We just choose not to for tonight. Not the classic venue we're running tonight. Partly cloudy conditions, so Nothing in particular too special about the grip here tonight at Monza, and 3.6 mile long track, one of the longer ones on the calendar, but it's mostly straightaway, so it's a fairly quick lap time, and 35 laps are running tonight for a total of 126 miles or 202 kilometers. Next week we go to, well, one of the biggest races on the calendar, might be the highest attendance we get all season, one you do not want to miss. Likely going to happen actually the Monday rather than the Sunday of next weekend, but we'll make sure to put out announcements about that. Keep an eye on the schedule as always, or any updates on YouTube, and be sure to talk to friends and family about the rescheduled date of the race, but it'll be reposted as soon as we know the date. So probably next Monday we go to Indianapolis, back to the ovals, and we may have some old favorites here in the series who have not run with us in a couple weeks rejoining us at Indianapolis for what is always one of the most iconic races of our season at the iconic Indianapolis Motor Speedway for round number 6. But up front, what was a 3-way battle is now a 4-way battle. What a race we've had so far at Monza. This is the part we got to ask. We got 21 viewers here on YouTube. Thank you, each and every one of you, as always, for coming out in the broadcast. It's been fairly busy so far, so I haven't got a chance to come to you guys yet, but we're going to stay on this really great chopper view because it provides great context for where guys are relative to each other on track. As we see further back, Preston is going to dive down the inside, or the outside, I should say, of the kind of fallen back Tim Salvatore in the 91. He's going to give Max the line. Maybe thinks Max can upset the balance up here a little better because Max is flying right now. The 6 car of Preston is looking awesome and continuing to make ground up through the field. So he's going to have a great view of this battle heading into turn number 4 between Nickerson and Bedrosian. As Nick can think of on the inside, he is not going to back off and actually going to give a little bit more track position to Preston. But as I was just saying, some early predictions. Everybody feel free to leave in the chat who you think is going to win. Maybe it's one of these top 4. Maybe you think it's somebody else. Maybe an outside pick. Do you think we get a caution? Any predictions you got, feel free to leave them there in the chat. I'm always happy to talk to you guys. We had some great engagement a few weeks ago. Plenty of people talking around, and that is what we like to see. So feel free to throw it in the chat there if you got any comments or you got anything you want to talk about. And for the time being, Jack, I'll throw it to you. From what you've been seeing so far, these top 4, Max being quick, Andrew leading, we know how quick Nick is, Tim being conservative. Who do you think is showing the early potential to come out on top tonight?
Yeah, of course. Any of the top teams so far are Nick or Andrew, but it's cautions are also never a question, especially this season with how the last couple races have gone with cautions, especially late in the race. So any of them could be there to get the win, but or even someone who's not in the top 3, like if something happened with the top 3 incident and someone comes up to correct it.
Yeah, for sure. A caution would drastically change the entire complexion of this race, but what is going to change it even more is that move by Max Preston, proving the pace he has, doing something Tim hasn't done yet to this point in the race, whether it be intentional, if he's trying to conserve and back off a little bit, but whatever it was, you saw the move there on the inside into Parabolica. You know, Max just sneaking the nose in under there, kind of sliding up in front of him, and was able to hold off on the run down to turn number 1 and 2. So Max Preston now up into second and chasing after Andrew Bedrosian. This battle we've seen many times in series history. The two guys actually, I believe, are still tied for second all-time in wins. Andrew might have surpassed him last week with that win at Gateway, but they have been 2 of the very best in the series, aside from Logan Pax, a 3-time champion of the Cars to Computers and the Snowstorm Series combined. But Max is in that conversation, and now he is trying to track down Andrew, and he's got significant pace to do so. We'll go on board with the 6 car into Ascari. Off of the 10th turn, here we go. Max Preston, Andrew Bedrosian, a new battle we're seeing, and I don't think I don't think Max has the patience Nick had there a minute ago. I think Max is ready to go right now. Into Parabolica we go. Andrew, a little bit of wiggle there from the car. There's not a ton of what's the word I'm looking for? Not a ton of commitment there under turn-in. I could see a little bit wiggling around. Here we go. Max is going to have a great run. Andrew trying to break the slipstream. He's going to go way to the inside. Look at the blocks from Andrew. Almost making contact on the rundown, but Max comfortably to the inside, or the outside, I should say, well ahead of the braking zone, and there we go. New race leader, recovering from this mistake earlier on in the race as he tried to make a move on the exit of turn number 4 that we're just heading up to now, or the entry, I should say. Couldn't make it work, had to go into the runoff, but has since recovered, and the pace from that 6 car is just blistering right now, Jack. He is looking great.
Yeah, they're gonna have to be careful with the chicanes. Like especially turn 1-2, because we've seen in F1 this year how that can work out with too wide.
Yeah, he's been dialed in tonight overall, and yeah, those chicanes, those low speed turns here at Monza. I know it's a high speed track from start to finish, but it's those low speed corners that are so crucial to nail, where so much time can be made up, because the key is always about the runoff. It's always about the how quickly can you get on the gas, how much pace can you carry through the straightaways, and if you can do that, you can have a ton of pace. As we see Tim Salvatore going to peek up the inside into the entry to Ascari. He has finally decided it's go time for him as well. He's going to peek up the inside of the number 2 car as we head out of Ascari. And now the run between Tim Salvatore and Nick Nickerson. Can Nick get in the slipstream long enough to make that move stick? The top 4 still separated by about a second and a half. And here we go. Can we potentially see a move back from Nick Nickerson on Mr. Tim Salvatore, as the top 4, actually more so than ever this lap, going to spread out a little bit. And Max Preston continuing to have pace up front as Nick Nickerson does come down pit road. There we go. The full pit stop from Nick Nickerson came in about somewhere in the ballpark of about 23, 24 seconds from start to finish there. So the pit crew on the number 2 car, of course, the virtual pit crew, doing a good job there to put him out in a pretty good spot. So probably not a bad plan, you know, right as he was getting to that point in the stint where all the other cars seemed to have a little bit more pace, or at least Tim Salvatore was a little bit more aggressive there when he made that move on him into Ascari this last time by. So clearly he's just, you know, gonna kind of reconsider things a little bit and take a step back, try to, you know, do a full reset on new tires, maybe make up a little bit of ground, not being stuck behind the lap traffic, try the undercut. And I don't think that's a very bad idea, because, you know, the undercut, or as we've seen from Max, I'm not sure if that was just his race pace or it was the guys in front being stuck behind Andrew, who was, you know, didn't have the benefit of the slipstream, whereas the guys behind did. I think it could be a very good move here from Nick to pit a little bit earlier, try to make great lap time behind some lap cars, which, you know, he can't do at the moment now because he just got by Dan Skilton there for, well, effectively 6th position on track, but in reality they are in different strategies. So I think it's a great idea in theory. The question is just how quick can Max Preston and Andrew Bedrosian run, and are they going to prioritize stopping that undercut, or are they just going to prioritize a battle? And I think it's the latter, because here comes Andrew Bedrosian underneath on the inside coming into turn number 1. We've seen this go the wrong way a couple times. Is Max going to give him any room? He does, just backs off into the braking zone. And just like that, the 5 and the 6 duking it out. And now we've seen Andrew Bedrosian prove the other side of his skill set tonight. We've seen him be plenty defensive in this race and all season so far, but finally we saw the first offensive move from him since that very first lap on the run down to turn number 1. Max going to abstain from making a move there into turn number 4, and maybe he's learned his lesson from a little bit earlier with that mistake at the start of the race. In the back, Tim Salvatore peeking out a little bit every once in a while. The 91 car had kind of a quiet night so far, considering how close he's been to this lead lap battle, and don't think it's such a bad plan for him, because if you think about it, in reality, we're 17 laps in, halfway through tonight's event at Monza, and he's only within about 1.2 seconds back of Andrew Bedrosian. No damage, has not taken any risks. This might be the way to win this race tonight. Just be there in the vicinity. Clearly, he's got considerable pace, at least comparable to Max, who we saw just a moment ago, was so quick. So in a similar scenario, you got to assume Tim Salvatore would be able to do the same. But I think the important gap to watch now on the timing tower is going to be Nick Nickerson in reference to these guys in the top 3, because all things considered, in lap to out lap, he lost about half a minute, about 30 seconds. So see if that gap keeps dropping, because if it does, if he gets to about 28 seconds, he may have pulled a successful undercut, at which point he will find himself at the front of the pack as these guys start to pit, which they do. Here comes Andrew, and here comes Tim Salvatore. Max Preston going to be left out as the effective race leader. Here comes the 5 and the 91 here. We'll see if anybody is going to be particularly quick on pit road. We'll see if somebody's a little bit longer than the other, taking a little bit more fuel, you know, maybe weighing out the possibility of a late race green-white checkered caution, which is always possible. Here we go, the run off of pit road. Who is going to win it? And it's Bedrosian, pretty comfortably too, in fact. Off pit road, there goes the driver of the number 5, and same with Mr. Tim Salvatore, who leaves at about the same time. So going to be close enough that he should get the slipstream here coming out of turns number 1 and 2. But more importantly, there is Nick Nickerson a decent ways back, actually. So the 2 car, I would have thought that plan for the undercut would have been the prime way to go, but just didn't get the slipstreams to line up the way he was going to need them to. And now he's still almost within slipstream range of the 91, but certainly a little bit further back than he was before he pitted. Looking here on track in a battle between Dan Skilton and David Paxa. Paxa sitting about a half a second ahead of Skilton down to the braking zone for 4 and 5, and Dan Skilton and that great looking purple and black entry there in that number 13. And we're doing a little bit different things with the textures here tonight. Hopefully the textures and the reflections looking a little bit sharper, and well, that is going to look great on the 13 car as he comes through the 2 Lesmos turns. So off he goes down towards Ascari here, still in the slipstream on Paxa, so I would not be surprised if we see a move here momentarily as Max Preston coming down pit road, the final of your race leaders to have to do so. Here we go, going to make the long drive down pit road here as we see Michael Nickel in the background coming down as well. Driver of the number 23 has had a quietly really great night for himself so far, and now pitting it from the 2nd spot could, with how much time Nick lost, potentially make his way all the way back up into the top 5 here as a result of this pit stop. And in the background, Trevor Anderson, as you can see, heading by pit road, and he will take over the race lead in the number 25. Still has yet to pit, of course, so that could cycle out differently, but if he's able to run long and he's able to, put more laps on new tires there towards the end of the race, might not be a bad plan for him. As you see Andrew Bedrosian getting by Preston. Preston coming out just in front of Salvatore. This could get interesting in the background. A fun little battle in turn number 1 as Preston does slot in ahead of Salvatore, who is just ahead of Nickerson. So essentially we've seen the exact same thing we saw earlier, except a little bit different because this time Andrew Bedrosian is about 3 seconds down the road. Well, as the caution cycle finishes up, or not the caution cycle, as the pit cycle finishes up, I should say, we are now going to get a bit of a break in the action. We're going to go to a side-by-side commercial break for just a brief moment here on the broadcast as we chug along in tonight's 5th round of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series Season 2 and the 5th round at Monza. And what a race it's been so far. Currently Trevor Anderson leading, but he has yet to pit, so the lead should momentarily cycle out to this guy, Mr. Andrew Bedrosian. We'll be right back with you in just a moment here on the Full Set Racing Network coverage of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series. And we are back here for the 5th round, or the 5th round of the 2nd season of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series here at Monza, as this battle for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th continues between Preston, Salvatore, and Nickerson in that order on track right now. We're seeing the 91 car of Tim Salvatore, who may need to take some defensive action here from Nick Nickerson as we come out of Parabolica to start lap number 21. Only 14 laps to go here at Monza, and currently your race leader by, well, on track by 2.5 seconds from Max Preston is Andrew Bedrosian, but on track at the moment, it is Trevor Anderson who leads tonight's race. Remember, he is on a different pit strategy than these guys, still has yet to come down pit road. Nick Nickerson in the background goes way wide on the exit of turn number 2. Not sure what went wrong there for him, but certainly did not get the run through that corner that he needed whatsoever. So Nick Nickerson is going to need to kind of reset a little bit, and yeah, now he's a full almost 2 seconds back of Tim Salvatore, about as far back from them as Andrew Bedrosian is ahead from Max Preston. So that little mistake there from Nick, it's what we were talking about earlier, Jack. Just mistakes are the thing you got to minimize, and we saw though earlier from Max Preston, not impossible tonight to make up that much of a gap if the two guys in front of you are battling.
Yeah, he just got on the curb a little bit, got on the throttle and run those back tires a little bit, and then kind of had to go wide.
Yeah, at least he stayed on the racetrack, didn't go off into the kiddie litter gravel runoff there in turn number 2. That would have been much more catastrophic than that was. We're looking at this battle here for sixth, I should say, between David Paxa and Dan Skilton. Essentially, for the time being, just the best of the rest from Bedrosian, Preston, Salvatore, and Nickerson's battle. And we'll see where Trevor Anderson cycles out, because at the moment, I would expect David Paxa and Dan Skilton to both cycle out ahead of Trevor. In fact, I'm almost positive. So this does essentially become the battle for 5th. And if it is the battle for 5th, what a battle it is here. David Paxa, Dan Skilton, Michael Nickel not too far behind either. So this battle for what is a very good position on track could be a very fun one, as we see off of Parabolica. Dan Skilton should get a pretty good run, so we'll see if the 13 car takes a whack at the 53, and he will. He's going to look to the inside here on the run down into turn number 1. We're going to go from the static camera, watch them go side by side into the turn, but no, David Paxa maintains enough momentum, and Dan Skilton just going to drop back for the time being, going to take a bit of a break and maybe take another shot at it here into turn number 4. Into 4 we go, and no, David Paxa considerably better back to the gas that time, it would appear, as he really pulled away from Dan Skilton, at least out of that last turn. Up into the braking zone, the 13 was able to make up a little bit of ground, but largely speaking, it has been David Paxa for all of this lap. Further back, we're seeing Justin Lewick have a little bit of trouble, and Nick Nickerson on track shows that he's crashed, but it does not appear that way on the current timing tower, so it must have just been a scenario with where he went off in turn number 1. Justin Lewick, I should say, has had a little bit of an issue. Massive tumble for him. Coming out of Ascari, the 55 car already had kind of a rough night for himself as of right now, and just loses it, and Ascari goes a full flip, barrel rolling over. Who is that just barely went underneath him? Somebody on track was lucky to escape that. That was Mitch Morrow. Let's go from his perspective here on the Full Send Racing replay presented by Canadian MiniIndy.com. Gonna go back through Ascari here and go to the cockpit view on the number 66 of Mitch Morrow. There he goes, bouncing over, narrowly avoids him. What a terrifying sight that would be to see in real life, but luckily in the sim, Justin Lewick was able to get off track, just roll to the outside of the racing surface. Should still have a quick repair left, but Justin Lewick, unfortunately tonight, not the night we've come to expect from him road course-wise so far this season. He was quite quick at Mid-Ohio and quite quick as well at Imola, so kind of out of character for Justin Lewick tonight, but unfortunately the start of the race just had I think, an issue with, I forget who that was, somebody on track that he had a bit of a shunt with, and as we see Mitch Morrow coming down pit road as we speak. But yeah, we've seen many times this season, early troubles can effectively end your race, or at least competitively, and it is really all about making a comeback, making a mistake, but being able to recover from it. And nobody epitomizes that better tonight than Max Preston. Remember back to that very first little segment of the race where he went off trying to battle with Andrew Bedrosian into turn number 4. Had to take the runoff there, went over a couple curves. We thought he might have damage. He didn't, but made up about a 4-second gap all the way back to this lead battle, passed up to the lead, and if it weren't for just a slower pit stop there than Andrew Bedrosian had on that last cycle for stops, he may be the race leader right now. Here we see the battle for 3rd once again, heading down to Parabolica. Tim Salvatore still apparently does not think it is go time for him, and he is going to wait back and chill in 4th for the time being. Remember, this battle essentially for 2nd on track, because Trevor Anderson, as quick as he's been, has yet to pit so far tonight. So it is looking like a pretty smooth sailing race if you're Trevor Anderson right now at the moment. Unfortunately, I don't think he'll, when he cycles out, I don't think he'll have the pace to make it all the way back up here to this battle for the lead, but with 12 laps to go in tonight's event, to still be in the race lead. You know, pit stop or not, he should still cycle out to about 8th as we see Dan Skilton coming down pit road. I thought Dan had pitted previously in tonight's race, but it would appear not. David Paxa has not, neither has Marshall Crocker Sr. So the last couple holdovers here who still have yet to go down pit road, and the first has come down here in favor of the 13. Look at him further up on track, though. The guy who comes by him on track as we speak, Mr. Marshall Crocker Sr. in the 15 car. My very own father down to turn number 1 is had a good night for himself so far. You know, consistent lap times, still relative to, you know, think about the other guys that haven't pitted as of yet. Running good times, should cycle out to about 10th. David Paxa a little too far up the road to reasonably make it without a caution. I would expect that would be about 2 seconds faster per lap. So unless David has some sort of issue, that would be relatively unforeseen. But generally speaking, a pretty unproblematic night so far for my dad. He's looked pretty good in terms of race pace. Gets a nice run off the corner there. Nice straight line down towards the 2 Lisbo's corners. So he's silently had a really good season for himself in the points so far. You know, comfortably in the top 10. I think he's tied with David Lakey for 7th in points. So he's not too far back at all of the top 5. And tonight, if he can just come home with a pretty stable points finish, might not be bad for his overall championship chances. But here we go, Trevor Anderson, your race leader, finally down pit road. So the race lead will cycle out to drivers who have made their final pit stop, and that will be enough for Andrew Bedrosian to take over the race lead, and he's looking for his 3rd race win in a row. Something we haven't seen in this series since the old Logan Paxa days. Something Andrew has yet to do in the series, despite what has been relative dominance so far this season, and in terms of poles at least, and to some extent last season in the races where Logan Paxa didn't take gold. So yeah, Andrew Bedrosian has just come alive here in these last couple of races. What we thought might be a rough early start for the young number 5 is, well, unfortunately for everybody else in the series, certainly not come to fruition. So Andrew Bedrosian looking great tonight, and that number 5 with the lovely dog picture on the back. I always miss it, and then I think I see it for a brief moment. I'm like, is that a Bernese Mountain Dog on the backside of the pod? And sure enough, it is. So that dog going a brisk 250 so miles per hour here as he soars around Monza.
I'm surprised we haven't had a caution yet with go.
Yeah, so am I. You mentioned it side by side for a second. Here we go up towards Ascari. We've seen a couple great passes in this spot tonight so far, and it's Nick Nickerson in the 2, back up into 3rd. Gets the move done around the outside of Tim Salvatore. So Tim once again going to do the conservative thing, back off, let the race come to him. Is going to give Nick Nickerson control of the 3rd spot, partially because he, I'd imagine, is probably still trying to, you know, whoa it up a little bit, take things easy, but also because Nick Nickerson right now just seems to be flying. Look at the run he gets on the, oh, whoa, almost off into the kitty litter there on the exit of Parabolica, but does stay on track. But I was just about to say, look at the run he got through Parabolica there. What a braking maneuver, and perfect apex. Here he comes on the inside, going to peek to the bottom. I think it's going to be borderline non-issue here, though. No, Max is close in the braking zone. Did Max go wide? I think he did. Max and Tim side by side. That's what I was talking about. Tim making the most of his opportunities and gets by around the outside in 2. Perfect piece of driving there from Tim Salvatore. Used just the amount of room he needed and gets by Max Preston to take over control of 3rd. Looking for potentially his 2nd podium of the season. Or 3rd, I should say. There we go, up front though still, as you see the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th cars there in the background as Marshall Crocker Sr. comes down pit road, so he will give up control of the 6th spot, I believe he was sitting in at the moment. Is now going to drop back a couple spots and currently in 10th. We'll see if he can come out ahead of David Lakey. He should, so a top 10 spot tonight for Marshall Crocker Sr. appears to be in the cards. No, David Lakey does go by, so my telemetry was just aligned to me a little bit, but the 15 car shouldn't come out too far behind, so could potentially make up the ground he needs to catch him. But yeah, you're just talking about a second ago, Jack, that, yeah, I'm incredibly surprised we haven't seen a caution, and just generally speaking tonight, the racing has been competitive, but guys have been mostly clean, you know, taking their chances where they need to, but guys are making a good point of backing off and just knowing when the move isn't there. And that is what has made this a much quicker race than last week at Gateway. Remember, that broadcast went almost 3 hours by the end of it. Tonight's could come in at, well, maybe even under an hour and a half, depending on the interviews, but what we're seeing right now is Max Preston, driver of the number 6. Remember how quick he was early on in tonight's event. He's been quick all week in practice. This could be his opportunity to at least get back into the podium, you know, maybe go for a 2nd, but at the moment, unless somebody finds superhuman pace here late in the race, it's going to be tough to track down Andrew Bedrosian. we're going to take one final brief break here, but we are going to stay semi-live here. We're going to, show some fun camera angles, get another perspective on the race for just a couple laps here, but this will be our final mini break before the end of the race. So we'll be right back here in just a moment as we watch some fun camera angles and just take a brief moment here at Monza for the 5th round of the 2nd season of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series presented by Full Set Racing Network. We will be back to full commentary in just a moment. Well, we are back here at Monza after a very brief break there, and it needs to be brief because what a battle we're seeing for second. Tim Salvatore got Nick Nickerson down into turn 1 that last time by. 8 laps to go here at Monza towards the end of the event. Tim Salvatore, a little bit of wheel spin there off the end of the turn, but Tim Salvatore, we went from just a moment ago talking about maybe he was just settling in, content with the top 4. Clearly that is not the case. Clearly he's had the pace this entire time because that number 91 is coming alive, and it got both Max Preston in the 6 and Nick Nickerson in the 2 in just a couple laps time. So now is the question, can Tim do what has proved borderline impossible in this section of the race and catch that man there we just saw in the background, the 5 of Andrew Bedrosian, the guy who's just been sailing away there for a couple laps since the pit cycle really cycled out, and he just much quicker pit stop than anybody else. Not particularly sure what it would have been that did it for him, but maybe less fuel, maybe didn't take tires, which would kind of be unheard of, I would have thought, but if that's the strategic decision he made, it may have paid off. So we'll ask him post-race if he comes home in the top 3. But Tim Salvatore already on this lap is up about 3/10. So all that pace we've seen all week, all that practice from Tim Salvatore may be coming in handy. And remember, that number 91 car has yet to score a win in the Snowstorm Series or the Carts and Computers Racing Series, I should say. So tonight could be a star-making performance for Tim, and already since we jumped to him, he is up 0.7 of a second, and he just ran the best lap of the race, a 1:36.8. So Tim Salvatore, Jack, I mean, we haven't had a fully new race winner to the series since Nick Nickerson back at Imola a couple races ago, and Nick being the guy to try to chase Tim down now would be our 4th winner of the season if Tim is able to make up that gap, and our first Canadian of the year. Tim is a guy you've raced with for a fair bit of time in this series, Jack. Is he somebody that you think has been kind of waiting for that breakout win like this for quite a while?
Yeah, he's always had the pace, and there's been some races that is unfortunate for him with bad luck of cautions or bad strategy, but I think that once he gets through a win or 2 in a row, then I think or even one win, he'll be on pace to probably be able to keep that going and get a couple more after that.
Well, he's got a chance. He continues to make up ground on Andrew Bedrosian as we speak, and that line of cars is making up ground. I almost wonder if you're Nick Nickerson and you want any chance at still going for the win, do you just settle in behind Tim and you say, okay, Tim, you're making up lap time. You're running great laps here. We'll see this time by. We're going to go to we'll put the last lap time up there on the left side so you can see how each driver runs on this lap on lap number 30. Salvatore runs a 1:36.8, so still 0.7 faster, but actually Nick Nickerson runs the best time of the race, a 1:36.6. So the fastest lap going to the 2 car, and this is just proving, Jack, that this line in behind has better pace than Andrew does right now. With 5 laps to go, at that pace they're making up, they would catch up to Andrew, and with the slipstream here at Monza, you only need to be in between about 8 and 9/10 back of the driver in front to have enough pace to get by him. So we could see that momentarily. We could see Tim Salvatore have the pace he needs to make that move for the win, but he's going to need to pick up the pace a little bit, and this lap has been a little bit slower than the last couple, at least in this first sector. So if I'm Nick, I might just leave Tim to his devices, let him do what he wants to do, see if he can get Andrew, and then on that last lap, if the opportunity's still there, then you go for the pass. But Max Preston, you saw in behind there just a moment ago, went a little bit wide off the exit of Lesbo 1, so not going to be the opportunity he was looking for this lap. We'll take the last lap times there off the top left, but yeah, that'll just show you how quick this pace is from this group trying to chase Andrew. And again, momentarily, if Tim can rattle off a few more good laps, he should have the slipstream to Andrew, which will be crucial.
Yeah, when with the lap times for all the top four have been running, it's any of them could at this point get it.
So once again, Nick had the opportunity there heading up towards Parabolica. He had the momentum to make the move and decided against it, decided to hold off at the time being. So I think the faith is there for Tim, but this time by, Andrew was faster. You see that gap that was about 2.8, 2.7 last time they crossed is now back up to 3 seconds. So we'll put the track map up here for a couple laps just so you get some context for how big this gap is, that being certainly not very. You see Andrew there in the background coming through turns number 1 and 2 as we speak. So if there is anything left in any of these cars from second through to fourth, this is the time to harness it. And a ways back to Michael Nickel, who still has run an impressive race so far, an impressive top 5 for the driver of the number 23. There we go, still more momentum for Nick Nickerson, but just can't channel it into enough to make up ground. Tim Salvatore this lap has got the gap down to 2.1, so that last lap maybe not the quickest. This lap though looking quick. Tim Salvatore, man, just this is the performance we've been waiting for a long time. Tim has kind of sat in the shadow of a couple other great drivers at some of the road courses in the past, and it's been the ovals like last week at Gateway where he got pole, where it seemed like he'd be able to compete, but running that Sim Racing Canada Canadian Tire VRS scheme there, that 91 car is looking like it has the pace. If he can just buckle down, rattle off a few great laps, get a little bit of ground, which he actually has. He's half a second ahead of Nick here as he exits off of Ascari. That car up the road there is the 5 of Bedrosian, and that is the car keeping him away from his first win in series history. So Nick Nickerson again going to get close, but sorry, Race Sim Canada, the correct name of what I was trying to refer to a couple laps ago, one of Tim's longtime sponsors and affiliations. And here we go across the line for the start of lap number 32. 4 laps to go, and that gap is down to 1.8 seconds. A 1.2 second swing there on that last lap time between these two gentlemen. A 136.4 to a 137.4. Tim Salvatore is coming alive, and if Andrew wants this to end in any way other than a competitive battle for the lead, he needs to rattle off some great lap times here.
Yeah, and this race is just showing the true pace of Tim and what he can do with in this series.
Down underneath the camera we go, heading up to turns number 4 and 5. Andrew is there. He is within Tim is there. He's within a second of Andrew Bedrosian now, as we're going to go to once again to Tim's perspective, just so you can see how close that number 91 car is. Heading through Lesbo 2. Look at Andrew up in the background. He's nailing the curves. Tim is driving the heck out of that car right now, trying to make up any ground he can. He's now a full second clear of Nick. Nick is as far back to him as he is from Andrew, so that'll give you context looking at this camera for how far back he is. But Tim Salvatore, I don't know what Andrew did on the pit stop. I don't know if it was tires. I don't know if it was any sort of mistake that maybe is affecting him, his pace here in the longer run. But there has been no help for Tim Salvatore these last couple laps. He is just running the heck out of that 91 car, pulling everything he's got out of himself. We're going to come to 3 laps to go here. Andrew up front, trying to weave around as much as he possibly can. And the question becomes, remember last week, like Jack, you were in that very same race there at Gateway. Remember their battle at the very start, wrecking only 5 laps into the event. Andrew with some aggressive blocks. Tim was having none of it. Tried a super aggressive move into turn number 1. Slid up and took the 2 of them out. Could we see revenge for that tonight? 3 laps to go. The gap is down to half a second. Andrew's got to get in defense mode. Whoa, there we go. Andrew goes wide. Tim gets into him. The contact from both. The 91 and the 5 come together. Where did that come from? What just happened? Nick Nickerson takes over the race lead. Goes from 3rd, and out of nowhere, within a split second, suddenly Andrew Bedrosian goes from 4th to 3rd. The 2 still battling. Andrew comes, may make contact again. Salvatore and Bedrosian, what just happened? Bedrosian now off in turn number 3, I should say. Bedrosian is off. Salvatore missing his entire front piece of his nose. What did we just witness?
It's exactly what you just said a corner before about the revenge. And not exactly how neither of their races want to finish, but
Tim Salvatore just absolutely sent it underneath Andrew Bedrosian. That was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. So this is coming up towards the braking zone. Tim way back. I don't know if he just misjudged the corner, but I wouldn't have thought he would dive under. If you've ever seen revenge in a racing series like this, that was it. Holy cow, Tim just absolutely just wiped him out. I mean, and then, okay, we got to go back to this too, because as we see Tim Salvatore just trying to get around the racetrack here, missing his entire front piece of his nose, which should give Trevor Anderson 5th if he can't pick up the pace a little bit. Down to 2 laps to go. Nick Nickerson still 2.5 seconds clear of Max Preston, so Nick suddenly goes from 3rd to suddenly on pace for his 2nd win of the season. You could argue should be up to his 4th because of how close he came at both Mid-Ohio and Gateway. But back to your other replay here, presented by Canadian MiniIndy.com. Let's show this second bit of chaos here. There it is. So this was the other situation between Salvatore and Bedrosian. Salvatore just nudges him off, and that little bit of contact was enough to do worse for Salvatore than it did for Bedrosian. I don't know what to quantify that as. Holy cow. Just what was such a great race from Salvatore. Like, he was ahead at this point. All the chaos they had. I know he was in 2nd at the time, but just, wow. Wow, I really wish that battle would have finished cleaner on track. You know, battle it out to the finish. Prove who was truly better of the two, but that'll certainly work. It's certainly an effective way of deciding a race winner, that being Nick Nickerson, who, unless Max Preston can put together an absolutely dominant final lap, should be enough to give Nick the win here. And as we just see Tim Salvatore exiting out of the pits a moment ago in the 91 car, what looked like possibly his first win in series history in commanding fashion, driving an almost perfect last 5 laps, suddenly falls apart in the last moments. So he has a chance to get Dan Skilton here, only 1.4 seconds up the road in the last couple of laps. But back up to the front through Parabolica, coming up to the white flag. It is Nick Nickerson, the driver who won in his very first race in the series at Imola, and since then has yet to get back to the top of the podium, but he's come close, and tonight could be the night. Just doing the patient thing. He took his opportunities before, but generally speaking, he gave spots up when he needed to. He didn't take aggressive, side-by-side action into this chicane or turn 4 and 5. He just let the race come to him, and it has paid off. Further up front, Tim Salvatore battling with Christopher Mitchell, the two guys going at it. Christopher Mitchell, we haven't talked about much tonight, kind of had a quiet night there in the 94 car, but might have enough pace to at least get up to the back bumper of Salvatore. We'll see if he has enough pace to pass him. But Dan Skilton a fair bit up the road, so Tim Salvatore must have made a mistake there on colder tires because he was right behind him for a moment there. But now, as we come through Ascari, this becomes the battle for 8th. But further back down the track, coming through Lesbo 1, now up to Lesbo 2. A couple more turns for Nick Nickerson, and he will make a comfortable charge up the overall standings here, as Trevor Anderson will come home in 5th, it would seem here. Still a top 5 for the 25 car. Not a bad race whatsoever. The veteran of the Snowstorm Series has run here before, and I believe this will be a 2nd top 5 as Tim Salvatore comes down pit road again. Tim Salvatore, I'm not sure if that's serving a penalty. It very well might be. But back out to your race leader, through Ascari for the final time. Only Parabolica separates him from the finish. Max Preston has gotten closer. He went from 2.5 seconds back up to 2 seconds on this lap. But as we come through Parabolica one more time, he didn't do it in conventional fashion, but he did exactly what he needed to. He was quick all the way through, and now he'll go from 1 career win in the Snowstorm Series to 2 career wins. Nick Nickerson, your winner in the 2 car, as he holds off Max Preston, takes advantage of the situation, and Nick Nickerson wins the race at Monza, his 2nd of the season, and it'll put him in a very competitive position in the overall points coming out of tonight's race. What a run from him, Jack. What a drive by our race winner.
Yeah, and I think that this race with Andrew and Tim, the crash near the end, and last weekend at Gateway, I think this season between those two could finish like could feel like Verstappen versus Hamilton's last season.
I would not be surprised in the slightest. I think that's a great comparison to make, and just what a race we just witnessed there from start to finish. And yeah, I mean, definitely the thing we got to talk about there. Well, we got to take that down. The thing we got to talk about there, is that on-track confrontation between Bedrosian and Salvatore. That's going to be the story of the season so far. That was tensions and anger building up, and you talk about it ending Tim Salvatore's race, putting him at the finish here as he comes across just in front, I think, of Mitch Morrow. He just gets the move done into Parabolica here. So after serving what I believe would have been a drive-through penalty, he does manage to come out ahead and still come home for a top 10 with that little sneaky pass last second on the 66 car into Parabolica. So Salvatore does come home for a top 10, but you gotta think there, after all that's been built up between those two drivers, that was just frustration truly coming to a head. And yeah, you'll talk about it putting Salvatore all the way down in 10th, but it put not a sure win for Andrew. He's definitely going to have to battle there with Tim, but what put a long time race leading position for Andrew, led about 22 or 23 laps at tonight's event. Well, put a potential win on the in the background for tonight, as he is going to come home in only third, but still a good points performance overall. Considering the fact that he got run into, it's not necessarily a bad way to end tonight's event. But as Scott Norman says in the chat there, it is not going to be a fun conversation in the post-race chat, I guarantee you. But we don't cover that stuff there or here on the broadcast. We only cover the actual racing. And as far as I'm concerned, that is something that those guys can deal with off track, and that will definitely be looked at by race director Christopher Ferrara. But for the time being, as we watch the drivers continue to make their way back down to pit road, let's show your final results here tonight at Monza for the 5th round of the season, as Andrew Bedrosian slides in next to Max Preston there on the start-finish line. So we got a camera to go to for their interviews. We go to Max Preston, who well deserves some additional attention tonight. He ran a really great race and had a ton of pace earlier. But here are your final results for tonight's race at Monza. Nick Nickerson coming home as your race winner tonight, second of the season to go along with that number 2 car, benefiting from that late race contact between Andrew Bedrosian and Tim Salvatore. One of the craziest incidents I think we've ever seen in this series. Max Preston coming home in second. Again, the pace he had earlier was great. Really thought with maybe 5 more laps might have had a shot at tracking down Nick for the win, but for tonight, he will have to settle with only second, thanks to this guy's wreck with Tim Salvatore. Mr. Andrew Bedrosian comes home in third tonight, just ahead of Michael Nickel. So Bedrosian, another podium, his 4th of the season, but certainly not perhaps in the way he anticipated. It'll be pretty good in the points, but it'll definitely give Nick a little bit of ground to close in on him in the overall standing. So Michael Nickel, a great performance tonight for him, comes home only 20 seconds back of your race lead in 4th. The 23 car will move his way up the points. As a result, Trevor Anderson as well for yet another top 5 in the season for him. He comes home in 5th. David Paxa in 6th. A good night for him overall in the 53. He put in plenty of time this week in practice, and tonight it pays off. Dan Skilton comes home in 7th. Christopher Mitchell in 8th after that. Both drivers who have had quite a bit of success so far this season, and they finish on the lead lap as a result. David Lakey comes home in 9th, another top 10 for the driver jumping over from the Bandit Racing League. Should maintain his spot in the top 6, top 7 in points, so a good night for the driver of the number 84. Then it's Tim Salvatore, the man of the hour, the guy we thought was guaranteed to have a shot at the win with the pace he had there late in the race, but that wreck with Andrew Bedrosian put his chances, put them to bed. And I think by the way that he came into that corner, I think Tim may be content with the way that race finished off. Mitch Morrow comes home in 12th, just ahead of Marshall Crocker Sr., your final 2 drivers on the lead lap. Then it's Fred Zufelt in 13th, Justin Lewick in 14th, Rich Foligno in 15th, Dignard in 16th, Dignard, I should say. I want to make sure I pronounce his name correctly, because I think I've been saying it wrong for a while. Then it's Jonathan Petrone, and of course Jack Hillier alongside us in the broadcast booth, neither of whom started tonight. There are your final results, and now before we get into the interviews, we got to unfortunately say goodbye to our co-commentator, Mr. Jack Hillier. He's got to head off, and we got to get into the interview booth. But sincerely, thank you so much, Jack, for stopping in with us tonight. And as always, you're always aware that there is always a spot alongside us in the broadcast booth to hop back in and help us out with giving people some great broadcasts or some really great races we've seen in the Snowstorm Series this season. And when we got you in the booth, it's always easier to do that. So thank you sincerely, Jack.
Yeah, nice being back up here with you, and to be back up with you in a couple weeks' time.
Perfect. I look forward to it, Jack. Have a great rest of your week, man.
Yep, you see you.
There you go. So with that, we say goodbye to our co-commentator, but we say hello to a new face in the broadcast booth, or at least a new face for tonight. He's not a new face for this season as a whole, because he's won 2 races on the season. Tonight could have been his 3rd, but unfortunately it does not work out, and Well, if you're a fan of exciting post-race interviews, of a little bit of chaos, of a little bit of controversy, this is probably not one you will want to miss. Let's pull Andrew Bedrosian into the broadcast booth momentarily for your first interview of the night. There we go. We'll get him in the broadcast booth here and get set up for your first interview of the night. Hey, Andrew, it's Marshall up in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Hey, Andrew. Well, first of all, we just got to, I got to give you absolute props tonight, because as far as great racing performances are considered, as far as strategy being executed almost to a T, as far as being quick goes, tonight was the race worthy of a race win, to be sure. Potentially your third in a row, but tonight, of course, it just didn't factor out that way in the end. So before we get to that, we'll start with the start of the race tonight, because one of the most competitive qualifying sessions we've ever had, we saw on display earlier tonight, as it was, in the end, I'm already forgetting. It's been such a chaotic night, but yeah, I believe it was Mr. Tim Salvatore, who got the pole there at the start alongside Nick Nickerson on the front row. Then it was you and Max on the second row. So about 2/4 of a second separating the entirety of the top four there. Qualifying was competitive. Your first time not on the pole this season, but you got an amazing start to back it up. So what was the start like this season, not starting from the pole for the first time at a road course, and what were those first couple laps like for you, ticking away at cars early?
I mean, yeah, I'm an amazing driver when it comes to standing starts. Not a lot of wheel spin, perfect start, and breezed past the first row and got a great start. So the first couple laps just was trying to run away from the rest of the pack. I mean, it's not that kind of track, so I knew it probably wouldn't have been possible to run away, but it was a couple chaotic first couple laps, especially with Nick, but it was fun.
Sorry, we got to get away and get to the later portion of this race, of course, which is probably going to be the bigger story coming out of tonight's event at Monza. But that late race, what wasn't really a battle between you and Tim there at the end? Just
that one that wasn't any kind of a battle. I mean, we talked right before the interview, and I mean, both of us have our own opinion about it. I'm not gonna really say anything until I see the footage, but I say he ran into me, he says I ran into him. I mean, yeah, really no comment on that. So
yeah, no worries. Totally understandable. Regardless of what it was certainly costly in the grand scheme of things tonight. I really wish that had gone clean to the end, but it wouldn't have been a third straight win for you on the season, coming out of both Mid-Ohio in the last road course event and of course Gateway last week. But the refocus now, you're still going to be the championship points leader despite Nick's win tonight. Certainly going to bunch things up, but you still led the most laps tonight, which was, I think, to some extent okay with most of the drivers behind you. It looks like a lot of guys that were tucked in behind you didn't want to maybe go right at the beginning, so you were able to lead quite a bit of the race, and your strategy was to perfection. So tonight, I think you did everything you could to go for the win. It was just, unfortunately, that incident prevented you. But going forward now, you're still the championship points leader. Next week we go back to Indianapolis, and I remember last season's race, I should say, and the first season of the Snowstorm Series, exact same car, exact same conditions. You may remember what happened at Indianapolis. It was all about the draft. We had a 4-wide finish at the end.
Oh, yeah.
You came home second.
That was fun.
How are you going to kind of reenact it this season, and what changes are you going to make to go for your third win in at least 4 races this season?
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking a whole new approach this season, and I'm gonna basically just try to stay out of accidents. Indianapolis, I mean, you can go maybe 3 wide there, but it's you're not gonna win the race in the very first turn. So at the end, it's always gonna be a very, very close finish at Indianapolis. It's not like Iowa or Gateway, where at a green-white checker you can just take off from the rest of the pack and go 2 laps and win the race. The rest of the pack can catch up very, very easily. And yeah, it's gonna, you're gonna see a lot of wheel to wheel battles. Maybe most of the time just everybody get into a straight line because no one wants to try to pass on the outside. But yeah, it's gonna, I'm really just gonna try to stay safe and yeah, just get in line until the very last lap and try to take the win.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's the strategy that's going to pay off best, as we saw last season. You know, as you say, it is a lot of single file racing, waiting for something to happen, but it's certainly competitive. If you ever want to see about 5 cars go side by side there on like lap 2 of a race, Indy's the place to do it at. So it should be a fun one from a broadcast perspective, regardless. But yeah, again, unfortunate today, Andrew, the way it turned out. But we're still talking in the broadcast booth. You're still the championship points leader. You're still the guy to beat going forward. So we'll throw it to you tonight. Unfortunately, not as the final interview, but a great race overall from you. So as you know what to do, you know, what I'm trying to say is shout outs to anybody at home, any sponsors you want to mention, anything like that. You know the deal. Now's your time.
Yeah, I want to thank my mother and my girlfriend for watching, my friends and family. I really want to thank all my sponsors, the Kings of Pop Culture, Stainless Realtors, the Bedford School, JP West Photo. They've all been really great sponsors, and yeah, I really want to thank you for putting this all together.
Thank you. I sincerely always appreciate it. And nights like tonight where we got some really great race in the top 4, we're having some fun. Hope you guys had some fun at home, and as long as you guys are doing that, then I'm a very happy series coordinator. So it was a great race tonight, Andrew. Again, I'm really sorry it didn't turn out the way you were hoping, but again, you come away with good points tonight. You got a whole week to reset before Indianapolis, and I look forward to seeing if you can bump up 1 spot from last year and go for the win next week.
Yeah, thank you, Marshall.
There you go. With that, your first interview of the night with 3rd place finisher Andrew Bedrosian comes to an end. And again, just you could argue it was a drive that was worthy of more, but you know, it's hard to put in words. You know, it really I think I deemed that move from Tim too much a thing of, you know, intention, you know, intentionally getting payback for something that happened previously in the season. I don't think that was necessarily the case, and I certainly hope it wasn't, so I shouldn't assume it was. Definitely, it's tough to judge the slipstreams here, and, you know, I think Tim was definitely going to try to make that move as soon as he could, so we shouldn't assume whatever it was. Really unfortunate tonight for Andrew. That was drive worthy of more, but unfortunately just didn't quite turn out that way in the end. So now we go to your second interview of the night, 2nd place finisher, Mr. Max Preston, waiting for us in the broadcast booth. Hey, Max Marshall up in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
Hey, Marshall, what's going on?
Oh, you know, we're just here enjoying some race in action tonight, and what a race it was. The top 4 separated by about a second for almost the entire race tonight. I sincerely hope you were having fun there, and it looked like you were. And just, first of all, at the start there, you know, you had those issues in turn 4 and 5. I forget who you were battling with, but you went off there, you went over the rumble strips, got back on 4 seconds back, and we're still able to close that gap back down. Like, just talk us through your pace here tonight. What was it like making up that ground, and talk us through the earlier stages of tonight's race?
Yeah, you know what? It's Monza's always a track that I enjoy driving at so much, right? I've done a lot of races here, and that's why, you know, the result, although is good from a points perspective, is ultimately quite frustrating, and I'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, the opening stages of the race, you know, the start went okay, right? You know, just held my position. You know, my rule is that I always try to go net positive, right? Never try to lose positions on lap 1. So that went well and everything, but you know, as we started going through the opening laps, you know, I started making passes for 3rd, you know, then got by Andrew for 2nd, and then it was Nickerson and I going into turns 4 and 5 there, and as he was squeezing me out to the outside, you know, him and I made contact, and I jumped a bit with his wheels, you know, we made contact in that bit. Unfortunately, you know, as I was under braking there, I just ended up unsettling the car just enough where I lost the braking zone, went over the rumble strips, you know, and had to make up that gap. You know, I was ultimately quite frustrated, right, as I was making up the time, and I think that played directly into my pace in that section of the race. So, as I closed that gap, you know, I knew I had the pace and was comfortable, and everything was going well until really the pit stop is when everything started to fall apart for my side of the equation here. You know, it's ultimately luck why on the podium today. But yeah, the opening stages of the race was a lot of fun. And Monza is another track that, I'm glad we raced here. I just wish my pace at the end of the race was there.
Yeah, I mean, you came certainly darn close there. You were making up a little bit of ground on those last couple laps to Nick, but he seemed to just have that little bit of extra leeway from the earlier stages of that race. That especially after the incident with Tim and Andrew, that gave him just that little bit extra room to run away. And speaking of which, I'm curious to know, because that was kind of the big storyline from the end of the race, where it looked like it was going to be Tim tracking down Andrew, getting him on pace. He was significantly quicker there in those last couple laps. He kind of found another extra gear that we didn't see earlier in the race when he was tucked in behind you guys. So what was your perspective on that incident, and just, what do you think the storyline is between the drivers around you? Because we saw it last week at Gateway, we've seen it again this week. What are you starting to see from a driver's perspective with the guys and how they're interacting this season?
Yeah, I love a question like this, because the thing that I see is, you start to see guys' attitudes start to impact the results of races and impact the pace that some people have, and that's exactly the world that I came from, right? And kart racing, car racing, motorsports in general, you end up having to play these games a bit as much on track as you do off track, and so what we're seeing unfold here between Tim and Andrew is, I think, two guys who I think have a different perspective on things, and I don't think they're too happy with each other's driving. And ultimately Tim does come from the same world that I do, and what happens with people who overly defend in races, or close the door aggressively, or race like it's the last lap on lap 5, ultimately those people get taught a lesson, and I think that's what we're starting to see unfold here. No need to name any names or anything like that, because the person ends up cycling through and it ends up becoming different people every single weekend. But I think what we're seeing is some guys who have been racing for a very long time versus some guys who are coming from the sim racing world, who are very, very quick. But there's a bit of hazing going on, and I think that's quite interesting to see. Now, for myself, unfortunately, what happened for me is I ended up filling up again with 62.5 liters of fuel into my tank like a knucklehead. And I think that's my ultimate downfall here, is that I'm used to driving this car in the official races where there isn't any pit stops or anything. I know it's a bit of an excuse, and I'll take that as it is. But at the end of the day, I got to get smarter with how to refuel this car. I've got to understand how much fuel to put into this thing. I don't use pit crew, or I don't use crew chief, or whatever it's called. I'm racing iRacing just stock here on my homemade system, on my little Toyota Sienna car seat that came out of a scrapyard. So I gotta just start to get up to pace on the technical side of things, because it's starting to affect the results. And it really was, unfortunately, I think we could have had a much better result than even second place here. So we'll have to come back next weekend with a bit of a different approach.
Well, you got a very different track to do it at, going to Indianapolis, where you were familiar with from last season. We've already run the Indy Pros at Indianapolis in season 1, and now we go back and try it again. Going to be more of a low downforce setup this time, so it's going to run a little bit differently, but generally speaking, it should be just as competitive of a race, and should be a nice fun reset there for Max, for you to get your first win of the season, which is I think we're all waiting for it. We saw the pace tonight, and when you were tracking those guys down early, we know it's there, and we know we're going to see it come to a head with a win and a final interview of the night spot for the first time this season soon. So we're all cheering for you. I know there's plenty of supporters there that know you from the karting world, and plenty of fellow Canadians that are looking for you to represent Canada as our first winner of the season. But you got a chance next week to do so. So you know what to do in the broadcast booth. Any shout-outs, friends and family, sponsors, anybody you want to mention, now's your time to do so.
Yeah, just want to thank Lumo Marketing as always. Great branding, great marketing, and great overall team. I always appreciate the support. And of course, my family, Alyssa, Gabriella, Michael, Jenna, Stella, Nash, and Gideon, my cat, and of course everyone else watching in the chat. So apologies if it's a bit of a frustrating night tonight, but I want to thank everyone else, especially the other drivers, and you guys, Marshall, the rest of the team, putting on this production. So everything's going, everything's so nice to watch. It's so smooth, and I have to thank you guys, because yourself, Christopher, the race director, and everyone else, you guys put on a great show. So thanks to everyone watching, and super excited for the next race. So we'll come back with the next approach.
Awesome. Looking forward to it, Max. Wish you the very best of luck this season, man. And yeah, shout out to everybody that watches you. There's always a great support system for you. And yeah, even if it didn't come away with a win tonight, it was super darn close, and you definitely had us on the edge of our seat tonight, Max. So thank you for that.
No problem. Thanks, guys. Take care. Have a great night.
There we go. Your second interviewee tonight, Mr. Max Preston. Always a pleasure to have him up in the broadcast booth. And again, I've said many times in the past, one of the most well-spoken guys out here. He knows what he's doing in a broadcast setting, and we see it again tonight. Always great to talk to him. Max Preston comes home second tonight at Monza. And now time for your final interview of the night. Your race winner for the second time this season, a guy that I'm very familiar with interviewing as the race winner in the Bandit Series, but now he's done it twice in my very own series, tying Andrew Bedrosian for the most wins this season. Let's get him in the broadcast booth, Mr. Nick Nickerson. Hey, Nick, it's Marshall up in the broadcast booth. You get a copy?
That's right.
Nick, congratulations, man. Back on top, and 3 weeks in a row, it's felt like you've had the car, you've had the pace, you've had the ability to win, but tonight being the first night, it finally comes to fruition. What a weird way to do so as well. So first of all, we'll talk about the beginning of the race. We'll talk about the earlier stages because you had a really great qualifying performance. We were competitive early, but we got to talk about the end first. That whole situation with Tim and Andrew, what was it like as a driver? You know, watching Tim kind of sail down the road, getting closer and closer to Andrew, and suddenly you look down and you're the number one driver. What happened there from your perspective?
Yeah, well, I mean, that was kind of the plan to kind of draft off him and get closer to the front there, so that I was in position the last couple laps there to start banging through my DRSs. And yeah, when they collided, I was kind of shocked. I was like, okay, well, I guess that was easy. Because, I mean, it was very difficult to pass. I mean, you could make passing attempts, but, I mean, nothing would ever stick. It's just impossible. So I was just kind of like trying to save tires, save a little gas, so maybe get like out of the pits a little quicker. I tried to do like a little pit strategy. Didn't quite work as well as I had planned. I think it was because I wasn't in the draft for a few laps that split between us, but yeah, I wasn't expecting that towards the end. That was definitely interesting. I think I could have possibly got my car side by side with Andrew before the final flag, but yeah, interesting.
Yeah, certainly was a very weird way for it to end, but seeing the kind of bad luck you had those last couple weeks with both Mid-Ohio and obviously last week at Gateway, I think it's definitely come full circle, and now you've kind of got the monkey off your back, to be sure. So tonight, Monza, your third road course race of the season. You've only been improving since we got you started, and you almost won the thing at Mid-Ohio, so there certainly wasn't far to go, and of course you won it back at Imola. So 3 races in now with this Formula Renault car. Where are you finding your skills lie? You know, high speed corners, low speed corners. Where are you finding ground on people, and what do you think you can improve upon to make up that last little bit of ground you didn't have in qualifying to get pole?
Man, I'm not sure there's not much we could do. Like, well, Monza was kind of one thing, but like at this track, because that we were all on the limiter like halfway down the front stretch. So like that's kind of like the blockade that keeps people from actually making a pass without having to just kind of like do something crazy. Because as you saw, Andrew was very aggressive on his defensive measures. So I wasn't going to sit there and try in every possible way to get past them and like risk crashing out. Mm-hmm. So I was just kind of playing it cool until like the last couple laps there. If the next races are if it's the same way where like we're running out of gear running around the racetrack, then it'll probably be exactly the same as what we saw today. I don't remember there being much of a gear issue at Mid-Ohio. That one seemed to be pretty good with the high downforce setup.
Yeah. Yeah, tonight it was just with trying to run a static setup throughout the entire season. I think tonight was kind of the outlier because Monza is just full of incredibly long straightaways. I mean, the only track that I think will come somewhat close is on the 20th when you go to Road America. We got the one long straight from turn 2 or 3 down to turn 3 or 4. That long straightaway. Other than that, I don't think we should hit this again because then it's Homestead, Miami Road Course, Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and then any of the 3 tracks at the end of the season. We shouldn't see it again. So hopefully just a one-off tonight. But yeah, it would have, I'd imagine, capped your passing abilities quite a bit.
Yeah, well, in that case, I mean, I feel like I should be setting pretty good, especially with like Canadian Tire. It's kind of one of my favorite tracks, and I'm starting to get the hang of, throwing this car around the track in the places that it needs to be. Probably need to work on tire conservation just a little bit more. It is a little tight on the corner exit, so I think I'm burning on my back tires a little bit, but hold on, man. still a lot of fun, and looking forward to the next couple races.
Yeah, speaking of the next couple races, next week, a very different event from tonight. Still very fast, but different car, different discipline. We're going to have to get a custom setup for it that'll release very, very soon. But next week, we're going to Indy, Indianapolis, the big oval, like the Freedom 100 style event. We had one in the series last year. It was ultra competitive. It was a lot of single file racing, a lot of pack stuff, but we had a 4-wide finish at the line. It's going to be all about draft timing, kind of the Indy Pro equivalent of like a Daytona stock car race. But you've got experience at the ovals, you've got experience running in packs, and how much experience do you have running a car like the Indy Pro at an Indianapolis, and just what do you know going into next week?
I mean, I ran the Indy cars at Indianapolis like a lot, but like 8 years ago maybe, so a very different tire model. I don't know, you'll just have to put in some practice work and see how the tires wear out during these next couple practices that you're going to throw up, and that should be enough information to be able to kind of hang out in the front. And I don't think you can go into a race like that with any particular plan. I think you just kind of have to go at it, and hopefully like your instinct skills work in your favor, and you're there towards the front, towards the end of the race, and hopefully you can make something work.
Well, you proved your instinct skills tonight by letting Tim go track down Andrew, because that decision was absolutely the most pivotal for your race tonight. And that's why it's the reason we're talking to you last in the broadcast for the second time this season now, and I think it's your fourth interview overall, maybe even 5. Have you not finished on the podium yet this season?
Oh yeah, no, at Gateway I finished 4th.
Yeah.
I think I finished 4th at Mid Ohio as well. I think it's only like my second.
Oh yes,
time.
In the end, yeah.
But,
feels like a lot, doesn't it, man? We just talk so often on broadcasts. It's just it's crazy.
Best friends.
We are best friends. I love talking to you, Nick. It's always a pleasure. And with I think Bandits season 10 is confirmed for sometime at the end of March, start of April. So before too long, I'll be talking to you in that series as well. And it's gonna be a very Nick and Marshall filled year, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But way to start at 2 wins at a road course series, and then you'll jump over there and have some fun. But Nick, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. You always find ways to be here. And tonight, I think that bad luck from the last 2 weeks kind of circled around, and you got what was deserved. So you know what to do. Friends and family, anybody you want to shout out at home, any sponsors you want to mention, now's your time to do so.
Yeah, one more thing about the race. There was a time I think Andrew and Max kind of got together. Like, what was that? Turn 3, 4? I forget which one. And Max kind of went off the road there and fell back to like 7th or something. And I think both Tim and I had the same reaction, where like when Max started coming up the field, we let him by because we wanted to see if he was seeing red. And we thought we needed to go up and give Andrew a little bit of redemption, but I guess they raced it out pretty well. I think that was about the time that I went in the pit, so I didn't get to see how they played out there. But there was a little strategy that I was hoping that was going to work out in our favor, but didn't. That's why I think in the last turn I took it wide to let Max by. I wanted to see him get up there and see what he was going to do. But that's the kind of thing you have to play with these kind of races, where it's not so much your skill that like will stonewall you. It could be the setup, like this one.
Right.
So, but with that said, I just gotta thank everybody watching at home, man. Sorry I'm not more animated. I'm really tired right now.
I know.
And Marshall, appreciate you broadcasting. This league's a ton of fun. Look forward to it every Sunday. And yeah, man, I'll see you next week.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll see you next week. Very different race, but I'm sure you'll make it work. And just to mention that David Lakey in the chat, not sure if you know who that is, referred to you as his hero. So there you go. There you go. So
of course,
you got an additional supporter out there for you from the Bandit days. But yeah, awesome job, Nick, tonight. Tired or not, you ran an absolutely perfect event tonight, and you get paid for it. We'll see you next week at Indy, and congrats on your second win of the season.
Cool, man. I appreciate it. Talk to you later.
There we go. And your final interview of the night with race winner, Mr. Nick Nickerson from Phoenix, Arizona. That becomes your third different American winner. An American has won all 5 races in the series, despite there being 4 of them. So that has been an incredible run of consistency there for our friends south of the border. And man, what a race that was tonight. What a pleasure it's been to watch every second of that. It was certainly chaotic, certainly maybe not the way that we were maybe anticipating there at the beginning, or the way that those battles were going to go. It was so hard to get a hold on, who had the pace there throughout the event and who was going to be the guy to watch. And in the end, it was kind of all of the above. Everybody had a really great race tonight, but only Nick benefits from the chaos at the end. Max coming home second, and Andrew third. There you go, up in the... I always get the corner wrong. And that corner is the final results here from tonight's event at Monza in their 5th round of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series Season 2, sponsored by CanadianMiniIndy.com, which leads me into that conversation. So I wish I had gotten a chance to mention them at the beginning. We were just a little bit busy, started a little bit behind schedule, but I'm glad to talk about it now, and thank you everybody for sticking around. I promise 2 minutes, we'll be good to go, we'll be off. You can enjoy the rest of your Sunday night. But first, CanadianMiniIndy.com, that way. There we go. We got to figure it out. But CanadianMiniIndy.com, sincerely, they're supporters of the series, but they've also been supporting my racing career for a number of years now. I got my start in racing all the way back in 2010. Thanks to Mini Indy, I've run in the rookie series for a number of years now, up to 11 years. Met some great people there. Met guys like Scotty Norman, who's always he was chatting in the broadcast booth. We've had some great battles over the years. Always a pleasure. But you meet so many great people, and thanks to this series, I like to hope that I've brought a lot of those people together, made some new friends like our Bandit Racing League guys that are coming over, guys like Trevor Anderson, Andrew Pedrosian, all those guys from the States. An absolute pleasure to have them. They are located in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, so just on the west side of Lake Ontario. If you're in the Ontario area and you're looking to get your any sort of career started in motorsport, whether it be at a low level, you're trying to get somebody young in to potentially go for maybe a full career. Like my dream was to be a race car driver for the very longest time. Kind of still is, but if you were ever looking for that opportunity, for a really great opportunity to meet some new people, get out there for a community, do something really, really cool and really competitive, Canadian MiniIndy is the place to go for either rookie series racing, or if you're looking to get into shifter karts, if you're looking to get in the future, but first you got to start in Briggs, you got to start in Rotax. If you're looking to get started there, CanadianMiniIndy.com is the place to go. Any of those levels, such a great sponsor. We're so glad to have them supporting the series, and this series wouldn't happen without the drivers that I have met and that everybody has developed with CanadianMiniIndy.com. So thank you to them. The link is as always in the description if you want to go check it out. Sincerely, if you have watched these broadcasts to this point, if you are in the local area and you have not checked them out yet, I promise you it is well worth it. They are still taking signups for all of the rest of the Rookie Series season, so those will go, I think, until towards the end of March. So you got some time, but definitely check them out. Link in the description below. Thank you to CanadianMiniIndy.com. It's getting late. The enunciation is getting worse. And below me, that one's not hard, EvanWallMedia.com, as always. Again, as somebody that makes all of our graphics in the series, and it was lucky enough to give me everything here you see on screen. I love our graphics package for this season. I think it looks great. These broadcasts have never looked better, and it's all thanks to Evan Wall. I'm really looking forward to working with them again as the Bandit Racing League comes back on this very channel towards, again, the end of March, start of April. Then you'll see more of his work and more of mine, and maybe get him back in the broadcast booth with me sometime. So thank you to EvanWallMedia.com for any paint schemes, anything like that, any sort of graphic design work. Evan is the guy to go to. EvanWallMedia.com. Link is as always in the description below. He's doing some really cool stuff for the University of Alabama as well. So Evan Wall, what a guy. Pleasure to work with him, and thank you as always for what you do. And then on the other side, Full Send Racing Network, the channel we're always on, the home of both this series and the Snowstorm Series, and the Bandit Racing League that is coming back again in just a couple months' time. So with that, we're going to round it off. We're going to go to your schedule for the rest of the season going forward, just to remind you where we're headed in the next couple weeks. So next week, as we mentioned, we go to Indianapolis, and that race will be postponed. So let's just put it out there. This race will not be happening on the Sunday night, as it traditionally would. It will instead be postponed slightly until, I believe, the Monday. I believe that is the place we are going to we're going to push it back to, just for the Super Bowl, because the Super Bowl is on the Sunday, and well, obviously we have Americans in the series, but it's a huge thing in Canada too. So we are going to postpone the race to make sure everybody can enjoy their Super Bowl Sunday, and we're going to postpone it likely to the Monday. We're going to be probably about the same time, warm up starting at 7, race starting at 8. There will be announcements about that. I'll make sure everybody that is sending the link out to people, getting you guys involved, your friends and family that send this broadcast to you, I'll make sure that we're very well cleared on that, but that should be the plan. So that should say 2:14, but after that, we continue the American theme. We go to Road America there after that. Then another American racetrack, actually a lot of American racetracks to end off the season. Actually, this was our last international event of the season. Wow, that's crazy. We had 2 in the first 5 races, both in Italy. So this series, unless the final race takes place at Spa, will be set entirely in Italy, America, and Canada, which is kind of funny. I just realized that right now, but okay, after that we go to Homestead Road Course A and the Oval on the very same night for the All-Star race. So that'll be a double broadcast. On the front end, we go to the road course for the traditional round 8, and in the back end of that broadcast, we have our Oval event in a different session, different car for the All-Star race, and I might even be racing in that one. So that would be very cool if we get that to work, and then Iowa Motorsport Auto Club and the track picked by the winner of the All-Star race. With that, we're ready to head off. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching tonight at Monza for the 5th round of the 2nd season of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series. As always, sincerely thank you, live from virtual Monza, virtual Italy. Thank you. We will see you all next Monday for the 6th round of the season at Indianapolis for the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series presented by Full Send Racing Network. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you soon.